We're going to talk about hydrozoning right now. So hydrozoning is made up of several different components, as you saw in the lecture. Um, Hydrozoning has to do with your irrigation type, with your plant type, with your location. So there's several different factors that come into play for each type of hydrozone. And a hydrozone is a valved area that's controlled by a single valve, whether it's sprinklers, rotors, drip line. That valve is what turns on and off the water. And so that hydrozone, that's how we can control how much water is applied to the plants. While a small residential project may only have 4 to 6 hydrozone, a large commercial project such as this rec center here would have many different hydrozones. So the first thing to easily look at on a project is if you have turf and shrubs. So we start breaking it up. We know that we don't valve turf on the same shrub valve. And so we know that this center paseo area and such is going to be valved separately than the shrubs directly adjacent to it. And then we also look at the different types of, for shrubs, if it's a high water use, low water use, moderate water use, those are different hydrozones. And then we also look at trees. We have some big trees on these sites here. So these are large oak trees. So that's a different hydrozone. We actually have a special valve just for those trees. We also have palm trees. So those are different hydrozones. But then we have a slope here. So topography wise, we have a top of slope valve, and then we have a toe slope valve. And we do that because, as you know, gravity has an effect on water. So the top of slope will be drier and the toe slope will be wetter because the water through gravity is pulled to the toe of the slope. So we have many different hydrozones. So for example, right here, we have this turf area, and we calculated the flow that was less than the maximum flow for the site. And then it was all rotors and all turf, all same sun exposure. And so we were able to put a valve right here. And then we ran our laterals, and then this is one hydrozone. It all uses the same amount of water approximately. And then behind it, we'd actually done multiple hydrozones in these shrubs here. So we had a flat hydrozone for the shrubs. Luckily, they were all low water use plants. And then we had a toe slope rotator valve. And then we had a top of slope rotator valve. And this made the system very efficient and evenly displace the water and put the right amount of water for each planting type. Next, we're going to review about sun exposure, north, east, south, and west, and how this is very important when you're dealing with slopes or buildings. And here on Google Earth, they have a cool feature. You can see what the shade is going to be like at a certain time. So we're going to start moving forward. And you can see that in the late afternoon, these north-facing slopes, see we're pointed north here. The north-facing slopes start to get shade much earlier than these south-facing slopes. So we have these are really dark now. And in peak summertime, this significantly drops the water use by these plants. And so compared to these full sun plants over here that are on the south facing, these will require a lot more water as the sun is bearing down on them. And then, as you can see, completely dark. And then this is only starting to get dark because now the sun is actually setting. But that's the significance that whether you're facing north or south, east or west can have on your plant material. I've zoomed in on this residential system or residential lot, and I wanted to show you the effects of um, what the buildings have on the landscape. And we're pointed north as top again. And you can see here the shade of the building shades this side of the yard. This is the northeast facing side of the yard. And so it has a lot more shade. The south and west facing would typically get the most amount of sun. But as you can see here too, this west facing side, because we have the other residents so close, this residence casts a shadow on the west facing side. So these are the things that we look at when we're hydrozoning. How close are the properties? Where's the sun going to hit in the landscape? As you can see, if this was a typical small lot, this side over here might be all shade, but because this is an extra big lot on the northeastern side, after a while that shadow stops from the building and then we have full sun again. So these are the different things that we take a look at, because if we had right here, this all is one, is if we irrigated this full sun area the same amount as this shade, is the shade would either be sopping wet because the plants aren't using as much water, or if we then irrigated to what the shade plants needed, these plants would be stressed because they're in full sun.